Hello everyone, I'm a bit too lazy to do like full and proper editing, so I just kind of brought the Twitter up. We've had some massive leaks just over the last couple hours from DBD leaks, and I wanted to make a video covering all of them. We're gonna start all the way down here, to which probably got some of the most excitement. Stranger Things is coming back. In fact, due to new info we've received, I can confirm that Stranger Things is coming back, and a second Stranger Things chapter is in the works. This is exciting! So, the Demogorgon is the only killer, and Steve and Nancy are the only survivors who have ever left the fog. So, due to the fact that this is the only case of it ever happening, and they being wildly popular characters, even among people who aren't fans of the show, seeing these characters leave was a complete heartbreak to a lot of us. A lot of us fans out there who, even if we weren't fans of the show like me, I've never actually seen the show, we love the characters, I love Demo, he's one of my favorite killers to play against. So it was a sad day when Demo left, and so did Hawkins Laboratory. Now, we have no confirmation if Hawkins is going to return into the game, but one can speculate that since the license is coming back to the game, Hawkins was part of that license. It was part of the licensing deal. One can make a guess that Hawkins might be making a return, and they might even have a chance to do a rework on Hawkins before bringing it in. If there's anything they wanted to change about it, maybe make it a bit more updated for the game that we have now. Next part that I think that everyone's kind of expecting me to talk about is the Chapter 25 leaks on Resident Evil. So here we have the look on everyone's prestiges, we have the perk icons. This isn't like the super juicy stuff. The super juicy stuff gets to being like there's some audio stuff here. This is where the super juicy stuff is located, and I'm gonna go over this bit by bit. First, we're gonna cover Wesker and his power, and then we are going to cover his add-ons that have been leaked for his power, and just my thoughts on the add-ons. And then we're going to do some speculation at the end for survivors and what their perks are, because they are not finalized as of yet. So we do not have information to act upon. And first is Albert Wesker. Albert Wesker was a high-ranking official in the Umbrella Corporation. While he made great strides with Umbrella, his ambition drove him to betray the corporation. Believing himself to be the test subject, he exposed himself to the prototype virus. Now with superhuman strength, Wesker faked his death and went underground with a new plan. Expose the world to Ouroboros, a biological weapon that could eliminate the weak and leave only the strong. Wesker began to put his plan in action in Africa, but was confronted by members of the BSAA as a hangar stocked with missiles carrying Ouroboros. Determined to be at the vanguard of evolution, he once again made himself a test subject, exposing himself to Ouroboros. He began to evolve in ways he could never have imagined, but as he felt his cells change, a strange black fog seeped into the hangar and filled his vision. When the fog finally dissipated, he found himself in another world surrounded by lesser beings that served to be put out of their misery. Albert Wesker is a brilliant and ruthless mastermind, infused with the power of Ouroboros. So his code name is the Mastermind, because we gotta have the something, you know? And he comes with the three teachable, they're not teachables anymore, they are just personal. His three personal perks, Superior Anatomy, Awakened Awareness, and Terminus, allow you to vault faster, see other survivors' auras while carrying one, and cause survivors to be promptly broken when the exit gates are powered. And they do exactly that. Superior Anatomy makes it so that when the survivor performs a fast vault within 8 meters of you, this perk activates. Your normal vault speed is increased by 30, 35, and 40% for 3 seconds. This perk deactivates when vaulting a window. Then it has a 30-second cooldown. I think this perk's great. So, very few killers have any way to work with vault speed other than Bamboozle. And for those of you who don't know, Bamboozle is a 20%. And Bamboozle is already relatively strong, right? So this is double that, which is insanely good. Now, I already see this being mixed, especially with Bamboozle, meaning you evolving at insanely high speeds, being insanely good for some killers. I could see this being a great cut down chase, especially for killers with not great chase powers or who are weak to windows. Like, for example, a Billy or a Bubba. Dude, they catch you with this shit, you're fucked. You're dead. Because they're basically insta-vault behind you, right? Personally, I'm going to get this perk and run it in my tier 3 Miles build, which he already has faster vault speed. With Bam Bam, it's incredibly fast. With this, I see it being ridiculous. I think this is an interesting perk, and I think it's actually very strong numbers is being shipped with a 40% for 3 seconds. It was only 3 seconds, so maybe that's the downside to it, but I feel like you can make it to a window and vault it within 3 seconds, and if you can't, then you probably won't going to need to vault that window anyways. Awakened Awareness makes it so when you're carrying a survivor, you can see the auras for other survivors within 20 meters of your position. Auras revealed this way stay visible for 2 seconds after you stop carrying the survivor. Starstruck is going to go incredibly well with this perk. I think it's not a horrible perk, but I also don't think it's great. You get aura reading close to where you're hooking someone to give you, I mean, I guess like if you wanted to run this in like tandem with barbecue, find people who are close to you and then find people who are far away from you, you know, like I see all kind of thing. I can see it, but I don't see this actually being a huge perk because for the most part, you're not going to be like able to properly look around while carrying someone without possibly risking like something happening you don't know about and getting caught off guard. I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if it's great. Terminus makes it so when the Ginger powered, injured down and hook survivors are inflicted with the broken status effect until the gates are open. When the exit gates are open, survivors will stay unbroken for an additional 30 seconds. This is a very strong end game type thing to try and stop like protection hits. But I'm going to be completely honest here. I know this sounds completely ridiculous, but if you find end game situations where survivors are taking protection hits a lot to be troublesome, run forced penance. I would say this is kind of a discount forced penance to some degree. I mean, sure, this activates on like the person you were chasing and down, so you know you got broken on them, but eventually be taking hits for them, and they wouldn't be like injured anyways. Like the only thing I see this actually doing, which could be somewhat decent, is countering adrenaline, because any hook survivors when the exit gates are powered are immediately inflicted with the broken status effect until the gates are open. And then they'd have to be unhooked for another 30 seconds for that to be removed, and that's a bit ridiculous to think of. So, I'd say Terminus isn't great. I'd actually say Superior Anatomy is the best perk he's got. The other perks are okay. I don't know how good Terminus really is going to be. I feel like Endgame is something that's never, like, a guarantee unless you have other perks. I mean, I guess this also, like, you know, you could throw this in a build instead of Noed, you know, like Noed insta-downs people, and then, you know, this is going to make them insta-downable all the time after you've gotten those down. So I mean, maybe if you wanted to, like, combo them, but then you're also kind of making that perk slot used. I don't know. I think this is an interesting perk, but I don't think it's great. I think Awaken Awareness is not the best, but definitely has some good synergies. I could see it being okay. Superior Anatomy, I think, is actually decent. So now we're going to talk about his add-ons, just to give my opinions on them, right? So we have the Jeweled Beetle, which is his meme add-on. It decreases the Vermin bound extension when grabbing a survivor mid-bound by 50%, but it gives you a 100% increased bonus. By the way, I have no idea what half of this means. It's like, if we actually take a look at his power, which is here, right? So here, let's read over his power, and I kind of have a little lost on it, right? So, you can barrel forward, infecting survivors with the Ouroboros virus, or leaping over obstacles. Press and hold the power button to charge a bound attack. While charging, the Mastermind moves slightly slower as he prepares his strike. When charged, press the attack button to bound. If the Mastermind hits a survivor, that survivor becomes infected. Should the Mastermind crash into something during this bound, he will slam the survivor causing damage. If not, the survivor is thrown, losing a health state. If they are thrown into any solid object. Virulent bound. Virulent. I don't know why it's virulent. Virulent. However it sounds bound. Hits a drop, pallet, or vault location. You will vault over it. If. Sorry, I can't see the if or whatever. But basically, if you hit a vault or a pallet while charging this, you will vault over it. So this can be used to vault over pallets. So this is going to be the next killer in line of killers that have ever been able to do this, which is Legion. Legion is the only killer that's ever managed to do this. Now, upon being hit by the virulent bound, survivors become infected. While infected, survivors will suffer from the hindered effect, and the infection builds over time. When fully infected, this effect becomes even more pronounced. If a virulent bound hits a survivor and they are fully infected, the mastermind will automatically carry them. At the beginning of each trial, several supply crates spawn, each containing a first aid spray. When infected, survivors can use the first aid spray on themselves or another, removing the infection. Each first aid spray has a set number of charges. Okay. This has a lot to take in, but his power seems terrifying, honestly. So, let's go over the basics. He has a special ability he is able to hold and charge, which is a bound attack, which makes you move slightly slower. Like a lot of abilities, such as one charge, you press the attack button to bound. There seems to be some sort of like movement-based ability to some degree as well, as if you hit a survivor while doing this, they're going to become infected or further their infection, and should you crash into something during this bound, you gotta like hold on to survivor. So it seems like you jump and grab the survivor. If you, at the end of the bound, you run into something, you know, like imagine like Hellbilly, right? You charge up your chainsaw, you run into the survivor, and then imagine if you just kept going with the survivor, and if you ran into a fucking like obstacle, boom, they're injured right in front of you. If not, it seems like you fucking throw them away, which I feel like is a horrible fucking thing for a killer to actually do. And on some maps, I feel like that's going to be really hard to get, like, proper injuries that way. You're going to be relying on your thing. Yeah, okay. But, you're able to vault while doing this, which is cool. And then you have the infection, which this seems to build over time, much like plagues infects. And so unlike Nemesis, which is a one-time boom, infected fully, this seems to be a plague-style infection that builds over time. You're going to be hindered the entire time, which is insanely fucking good. Like, that's nuts. And it seems like that hindered gets worse as the infection grows stronger. And if you're fully infected and he uses that bound on you, you are going to be immediately grabbed. Right? So, like, you're not going to get downed. It's not even an exposed. You are just under the shoulder. Like, boom. Like, imagine, you know how Dredge, when you teleport to lock someone's in, you just immediately grab and exit? That's what that does. First aid sprays are the only way to counteract this infection. However, they each have a limited set of charges, and there is only a few supply crates containing first aid spray, meaning there's a limited amount. So now we look at the add-ons, and this gives some more information just we really didn't have before. So it seems the Variant Bound extension when grabbing a survivor mid-bound, so I'm assuming what this means is like, if you grab someone mid-bound, you're going to go for longer for a chance to slam into something, right? This probably just means that's cut in half. Increase the rate of infection when grabbing a survivor by 30%. So they get more infected. Cool. Increase the initial bound distance by 20% and then decrease the subsequent bound. So it seems you bound twice? So is this what it means by grabbing a survivor mid-bound? Is that you do 2 bounds, right? So you do your first bound, bam, you're bound, and then you possibly can grab onto them, and then I don't understand the 2 bounds. And there's 2 add-ons that do this. They're complete opposites. Next is the shorter walkie, which means your initial bounds cut, but your increase to your second one, which is interesting. Loose crank makes it so that your movement speed between the first and second bound is increased by 20%. I have no idea how handy this is. This seems like it is maybe at best a yellow add-on, brown to yellow in rarity off of where it's at listed among these, I'd assume. So if we think about it in that sense, you know, I have no idea how long you have to wait for doing your first and second bound. If it's something like charge up your bound once and you can keep walking like normal and then do the second one, that might be great. But maybe that's not how it works. We don't know. We really need to see the power to understand some of these, right? So decrease the time to recharge bound by 10%. That's not bad, you know, 10%. We don't know how long this power takes to recharge, but 10% is not a horrible number to knock stuff off of. Increase the distance at which survivors are thrown. This seems horrible. You throw survivors further, right? So if you manage to land them into something, they are going to be injured, but they're going to be far away from you. And then you, as a M1 color with some sort of ability to be able to damage them, you just have to catch up, right? You don't have any follow-up that you were able to do. And if you don't throw them into anything, like, fuck. They're just making a bajillion distance. This does not seem like a good add-on, and I would say might be his worst add-on total. Period. Increase the bound extension when grabbing a survivor mid-bound by 50%. So I think this seems to make that like secondary bound, or like you continue going further after grabbing someone by 50%. That's a good solid margin. It counteracts the jewel beetle actually. Bullhorn makes it so that first aid spray, if you use it, you suffer from oblivious for 30 seconds. It's oblivious for 30 seconds. It's not great. Portable safe makes it so that survivors injured by the bound suffer from the hemorrhage status effect until fully healed. Okay, yeah, I mean every color has to have one of these add-ons at this point. Increase time it takes for survivors to use a first aid spray by 2 seconds. We don't know how long it takes for you to do the first aid spray, and we don't seem to get any information. It's not like the killer seems to get notified when someone's doing it, like for example Pinhead's box. So I feel like adding an extra 2 seconds isn't going to be impactful because people aren't going to be using this fucking mid-chase a lot of the time, I feel. When survivors become fully infected, they suffer from the blindness status effect for 60 seconds. Blindness is a horrible status effect. It is probably the worst. I don't see this actually being that good, especially since this seems to be a green add-on. Video conference drive makes the infection passive gain rate 30%. Now, I'm assuming this is after they've been infected. They continue to get more and more infected passively. This makes that increase by 30%. That seems pretty decent. So this increases the duration of an additional bound window by 50%. So this kind of confirms that you have the ability to do like 2 bounds. And you have like a period of time. So think like Blight's Rust, right? You can do one, you can wait a bit, and then you can do another, right? This seems to have like a similar thing, except you're able to move around more. Interesting. Dark sunglasses. When survivors fully infected, gain the indetectable status effect for 20 seconds. It's only 20 seconds. And it doesn't seem like you get told when someone's fully infected, like, where they're at. If you did, I could see dark sunglasses maybe being like a sneak up on someone who was passively getting infected, but otherwise still I don't see this being great. It's probably mostly going to proc during chase. And red light can actually be more of a tool than no red light. Helicopter stick makes it so that when the survivor uses first aid spray, reveal the aura for 8 seconds. This is actually not bad for informational purposes. And it's not even when they open the case, it's when they use the first aid spray. And since they're going to have to use it multiple times, cleansing themselves, you know. I think this is actually a really good add-on. Increase the movement speed while charging the bound by 5%. We don't know how much he's slowed. We know he's slowed by a little bit, and it's not much. That might actually just equalize it out in like the numbers. And if that's the case, not the greatest, but it's also not the worst. So I guess it's not horrible. And then when a survivor reaches for infection, review the aura for 4 seconds. So this confirms we have no idea where they are. I'd see maybe Ouroboros virus mixed with dark sunglasses being a fun ass combo. Try and sneak up on that person and just into the shoulders, you know? But I don't see that being huge otherwise, as it's most likely to happen most often in chase and not passively, which I think is the main issue with those add-ons. Now we get the eerie add-ons, part that I know everyone's always excited about. Lab photo. This makes that destroyed pallets and breakable walls when colliding with them using the bound, but you can't vault them anymore. So this kind of just lets you destroy them instead of vaulting them, and I guess depending on how this power works, that might actually be really fucking strong. And it makes this power able to break pallets, so no matter what, it's probably not going to be the worst. And then the iridescent Ouroboros file. Survivors start the trial infected, and they are exposed for 30 seconds when reaching maximum infection. Now, I want to talk about something that I've noticed with Behavior's method of implementing add-ons these days. You always have some sort of weird incidental expose add-on and at least one weird incidental, maybe some amount of control by you, but undetectable add-on. They all have to have like a hemorrhage add-on. I feel like it is kind of a shame to see so many add-ons like always being repeated in the similarities. However, they do try and find new ways to spin them, and this one is a lot better than most. For example, Nemesis is when they use the fucking injector, right? They cleanse themselves. Now they're exposed. Cool. They're so far away. This is something where survivors are more likely to actually reach maximum infection during chase. Now, if you don't have an opportunity to be able to use your power on them, you can just down them with your M1. They're going to be terrified because you can just yoink them onto your fucking shoulders. Everyone starts infected, which is going to lead to a holy fucking shit, this is terrifying moment. Yeah. I think it's a pretty solid add-on. So, overall, mostly happy with this add-ons. Some I'm really not sure what to say because we haven't seen the power, so we don't know how they're too effective. And now on to probably the most fun part for me. Speculation, right? So we have Ada Wong and Rebecca Chambers, and we have a description of what their perks kind of do, but we don't have actual proper ones, right? So her personal perks for Ada Wong are Wire Strap, Reactive Healing, and Low Profile, allowing her to spy on the killer, gain a surge of healing when her allies are hurt, and leave no trace when the final survivor. So, let's just do some speculations here on how this is probably going to work. You gotta remember 3 things when you're making a perk for Behavior. It is going to have a 3-tier system, so at least something has to change in the numbers to some degree for a little bit of time. Next, honestly, you don't just throw away something because it is utterly overpowered or completely underpowered. They've released multiple perks on one side or the other immediately. They're not always the best at balancing, so you don't need to be perfect, and obviously the name can sometimes be a clever nod. Now, I never played like a lot of the Resident Evil games. I've really only played RE3 Remake, so I'm not going off of any in-game knowledge for any of these. But Wire Strap, allowing you to spy on the killer. This is going to be an aura reading perk. Wire Tap, not Strap. I've been calling it Wire Strap. I'm sorry. Wire Tap. Wire Tap gives me the impression of being able to set something in an area. Like, for example, like a boon, right? So you set up a boon, and when the killer is within the area of the boon, you can read their aura. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and I think that actually be a really interesting perk for a boon perk. And it would also encourage boons to be more aggressively used near the killer, which also incentivizes it to be snuffed more, adding to like some interesting stuff there. So maybe it works as something like that, as something you're able to set down on like an area or something. We Other ideas maybe is whenever the killer gets, like, near you. No, because then that's just the new version of Dog Sense. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's actually a secret boon perk we don't know about. Maybe it's something else where you can just set it down in an area. Something like, for example, flashbang, you have to craft, something like that. Reactive healing gives you a surge of healing when your allies are hurt. I think this is really simple. You're gonna gain, oh, by the way, the numbers, right. So numbers for wiretap is probably gonna be range based or seconds based. So if it is something you set down and it has a range, we can probably assume something like maybe 16, 24, 32 meters. As a simple possible range outcome. That might be really fucking strong though. So maybe cut that to be more like 8, 12, 16. Or maybe 8, 16, 24. Anyways, and if it's amount of time, we're probably going to expect to see something like 3, 5, 7 for the length of time. Reactive healing gives you gain a surge of healing when your allies are hurt. We're going to assume this probably adds up to being about 15%, 20%, and 25% of your total healing bulb progressed whenever an ally loses a health state. So whenever anyone loses a health state, you will partially heal yourself. No action needed, just a perk. That's an interesting idea. And low profile makes it so you leave no traces, one the final survivor. Now we already have Sole Survivor increasing action speed for generators, opening the exit gate in hatch actions, and hiding your aura for a large area. So what can it mean by leaving no trace? It's removing the scratch marks and pools of blood, I would say. This is going to, once you're the last survivor in a trial, you no longer leave scratch marks or pools of blood. This isn't a timed thing at all. There's no time limit. Boom. You are just fucking stealth. And I don't even think that's... And that's not even that strong, because if you think about it, sure, might be able to guarantee a hatch escape in horrible situations, but otherwise, it's not great. So then we have Better Than New, Reassurance, and Hyper Focus allow to give our teammates speed boosts, give temporary relief to struggling allies, and complete skill checks at increased speed. So, what does all this mean? So, we have Better Than New, which allows her to give teammates speed boosts. I'm assuming, especially off the name of Better Than New, this is a healing-based perk. After you finish a heal on someone other than yourself, they are going to gain a temporary haste status effect for... You gotta make this actually an impactful amount of time, so we're talking maybe like 30, 40, 50 seconds. They're gonna have haste. Those might be really high numbers, so maybe we need to tune those down to being something more like 20, 25, 30. Because they do have to actually be able to get use out of this other than just traveling around, because otherwise I don't see that being worth it. Reassurance, which gives temporary relief to struggling allies. I think struggling allies is going to be that kind of struggle stage kind of thing. So we already have a perk in the game currently. I know it used to be, I think, Babysitter. I think it's now Camaraderie, or it was Camaraderie and now it's something else. I don't even remember anymore when it comes to Steve's perks. That makes it so that when someone is nearby you and you're on your second phase, you have the wiggle time, not the wiggle time, the pause timer. The pause timer. The timer for struggle stage, during the struggle stage, paused. So, this is it gives temporary relief to struggling allies. I'm wondering if this is a perk that you run, so when you are near allies who are on second stage or whatnot, their timer will be paused for a period of time. Temporary relief to struggling allies. So you're able to go to someone and be able to stop their struggle stage for a bit. This could actually be not a bad perk. And complete skill checks at increased speed. Complete skill checks at an increased speed. Does this mean that skill checks are being sped up, much like the effects, the new effects of Chlorophobia, being put onto a survivor perk for all skill checks? That's an interesting idea for a perk. but what's the really like the point of making skill checks faster? So I'm wondering if I mean, that's all that could really do is complete skill checks at increased speed. Maybe it increases like the success range. Like maybe this is the new person perk, and it increases the success range of good and great skill checks by a certain amount, so it's easier to hit them, so you get through them faster, right? Maybe that's what it is. These are my speculations, so feel free to leave your own in the comments below what you think these perks could possibly mean, and leave your opinions on what the Mastermind's power is and how you feel about it, and how you feel that Stranger Things is returning to DBD, because I know I'm excited. Stranger Things and the Stranger Things 2 chapters, so I want to leave right now. I know I was just kind of saying my goodbyes and everything, but just say that the second Stranger Things chapter is in the works. So I know that everyone's kind of been talking about this. Let's just let the cat out of the bag on our thoughts here. Odds are this is probably a Vecna chapter. There have actually been some clips going around recently on YouTube and stuff that this is actually pulled from of a like lab type map. There was like an 11's room and the Rainbow Room, and I believe these are references to season 4 of Stranger Things, to like the area where like the human looking Vecna I believe was. I could be very wrong in this. I've never watched the show. I'm just taking guesses, but if you think about it like this, think about the fact that everyone's been requesting, yo, Vecna, get them in DBD right now. You know, Vecna would be amazing as killer in DBD. Let's be honest, that's probably what's going to happen, is Vecna. I see that being super likely. So we're kind of going off of the thought process here, right? So we know Stranger Things is returning, and we were given a timeline for Stranger Things to return previously, and we weren't really sure about it being sometime in the winter. So it's probably when to expect Stranger Things to return, and it's probably going to return with the chapter of Stranger Things. And like I said, likely to be Vecna. We can't really guess around perks or power right now. I'm really unknowing on a lot of stuff. So if you have any theories, leave them in the comments below. Thank you guys so much. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.